everyone. My name is Rosie. I go by Rosie in the Rockies here on YouTube, on Instagram, and also on Etsy, where I now have 4 antique cross-stitch reproduction charts, PDF digital charts for sale. I will link my socials as well as everyone and everything I mention in this video in the description box below. I hope that you're all doing well, that everyone who's had a kid return to school had a smooth transition back, and that you've had a great stitching month. And I hope that this year brings you some company or enjoyment or calm while you are stitching. It's been 4 weeks since my last video, and in August I managed to fully finish or frame 5 pieces. So I have 5 FFOs to show you, one of which is the new sampler release you see in the center of the screen. I also have a giveaway winner. I have 5 whips to share from this month, and then I have 2 plans for Sampler September, and one of those plans involves a new antique that I'll show you at the very end of the video. So let's get started with the 5 fully finishes. The first fully finished frame piece is my new antique reproduction, Sarah Tweddle, 1857. I showed her finished last month, and now here she is framed. And I think she just turned out beautifully. She's different than the other antiques I've reproduced so far. She's a spot sampler, and the original antique, which I include photos of in the chart, was stitched on wool on an open weave canvas. I chose a 40 count in the color Honey by Blackberry Primitives and a variety of Gentle Art Classic Colorworks and 1 Weeks Dye Works thread. This is her color palette. Sorry, the threads are ratty. And now you can pick her up in my shop. You can see what a horrible printer we have. So with the chart comes a cover page, as well as my approach to reproducing Sarah, a little bit about the possible girls she could have been. Here's a photo of the front of the original antique. And then a little bit of information about how I reproduced her. And then at the end of the chart, you get all the Gentle Art sampler threads, Classic Colorworks, the 1 Weeks. And because the wool on the original sampler was pretty damaged, it looked variegated. So I do provide an approximation of DMC colors that kind of fit with the original antique if you didn't want to use the hand-dyed cottons. But to get the effect that I got, you probably would need to combine DMCs, so use 2 or 3 DMCs for each hand-dyed color, but you could just stitch it with one of each DMC option I provide, and I think she would still look really beautiful. So I'm really happy with her. I think she turned out great. She is on sale in my Etsy shop, which I will link down below. And Sarah, as well as my 3 other antique reproductions, are 10% off between today's August 27th, 2026, and the last day of September, in honor of Sampler September, and also in honor of this being 1 year since I first released my first reproduction, Elizabeth Metcalf. And hopefully I'm inserting photos of all 4 of my repros so that you can see them. I want to thank all of you who commented and liked the reproductions, who were supportive of it, especially those of you who purchased any of my charts. And then I want to give a really special thanks to Kim Goldman, Contented Needleworker Kim, who really kind of created enthusiasm around my first release and subsequently, as well as all the women and men who have been stitching Elizabeth Metcalf, who purchased Sarah in the last week since I released her, and my other charts. I'm not doing this for money, obviously. I have a full-time job, and releasing 4 charts in a year is not going to bring any money in. In fact, I think we're bleeding money to Etsy a little bit because of their charges, and I try to keep the prices of the charts relatively low. But to share in my love of reproducing that I've discovered in the last year, and to have people be receptive to it, has been really meaningful. So thank you so much to all of you. And a special thanks to Kim and Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot, and all of the stitchers who are in the Elizabeth Metcalf group. I'm going to list the Instagrams of as many as I can remember down below, who are stitching Elizabeth, and potentially maybe now Sarah too. Now I have a giveaway winner. So my kids figured out how to use random, what was that website called? They found some website where you could do a giveaway through YouTube comments using a specific word. So last month in my video, the word was motif, and I asked you to share what your favorite motif of Sarah's was. And I was so thrilled to see when my kids ran the number generator that the winner is Mora, the Champagne Stitcher. And if you are not following Mora on Instagram or YouTube, you should. She is so enthusiastic and stitches a wide variety and is a beautiful stitcher. But I believe Mora has never stitched a sampler before. So Mora, baby, this is your chance to stitch maybe you can start with one motif from Sarah, although I don't want to coerce you. So Mora, I'm going to message you and get you a copy of Sarah Tweddle. For everyone else, I think there will be more giveaways in the future each time I release a new sampler. And Sarah and my other 3 reproductions are 10% off on Etsy from now until the end of sampler September. Let's talk about some other fully finishes. All right, the next FFO is Capt Jack, or Marie Barber's Old World Floral. I finished this a couple of months ago. I stitched mine on 36 count silver lining by Seraphim Fabrics with all the called for DMCs. And I stitched this with a group of women on Instagram that Kim, Contented Needleworker, coordinated. I'll link everyone who has been working on and or has finished Capt Jack down below. My son was my stitching manager or bully for this piece. And he was looking for a round kind of beat up frame that might look a bit like a ship's wheel or a part of a ship or broken down driftwood, and everything we found from professional woodworkers, from frame shops, from Etsy was going to run us between $500 and $600 because of the size of Capt Jack. And I finally said to him, look, I'm willing to pay $500 for an antique. I am not willing to pay $500 for a frame. He was disappointed, but he understood. And then last weekend, we were in Home Goods, of all places. I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but our Home Goods is connected to a TJ Maxx. And we had gone to the closest TJ Maxx to get the kids some essentials they needed for school. And we popped over onto the Home Goods side and I asked the boys if they'd be willing to walk through the frame aisle, and we all saw this frame at the same time, and we all reached for it at the same time. We thought it was perfect. My oldest loved it because at the top and bottom there are what look like little shells, and he thought that fit the beach theme. Let me zoom out a little bit. And my youngest said this looked like pirate's gold, pirate's treasure, and I couldn't agree more. I also really love that the way this frame dips in, it looks a little bit like a tray, which I think gives it a unique look. Through the camera, it looks like there are wrinkles in the fabric, but that's not the fabric. That's how it was dyed. It's pulled taut. So everyone in our family is really happy with how Capt Jack has turned out in his frame. And he's going to go up on our family's sampler wall when we put it together next month. And then I'll have to maybe find another Barber bird. I have, I think, 4 or 5 of her other bird charts, either standalone or in magazines, as well as 2 of her books. But like many stitchers, we're on a bird kick, and I couldn't be happier with this finish. And by the way, this frame was $20. So a total steal. Thank you, Home Goods. The next FFO is Cittlewick Green. I finished this a couple of months ago as well. This is an Amazon frame. I haven't closed up the back yet. But I think this frame looks great. I think it was in the $35, $40 range, which is half of what it would cost if I did custom framing. And it's mostly even. You will see there are a couple of places where the pinning looks a bit warped. The pinning is accurate. There is something about a couple of spots in the linen, and I even took out a fabric measuring tape and started measuring where the linen itself is warped. I'm not sure how that happened. So it looks a little crooked, but it is straight. And I think this frame is a good fit for this piece. I really appreciate how it turned out. If you're looking for other stitchers who are currently working on this, Sabrina, Sweet Lemonade Stitching Nook, is working on it. She selected a beautiful kind of pastel blue, green, and cream fabric that I think really complements the colors in the piece. And then I just saw that Haley, Peregrine Stitcher, purchase this one. So Haley, I'm hoping you start it soon so that I can follow your progress. And the last 2 FFOs I'll show together. On the left is Modern Folk Embroidery's, on the right is Modern Folk Embroidery's Peacock Tree, and on the left is Mojo Stitches on a Low Branch. Both are stitched on 32 count Tree Forest by Polstitches, and this is a lugana. Michael's was having a clearance on almost all of their frame brands because they just brought in a new brand called Ashland. My friends, if you have not been there, I think whoever's in charge of their pricing has lost their minds a little bit. Their new frame line, the frames are very pretty. They're more intricate, but like an 8x10. So this size is selling for between $70 and $134 US. Off the shelf. This is not custom framing. So I was snatching up the clearance frames left and right. I believe I picked both of these up for $20 or $22 total for the both of them, including tax, which I think is a great deal. I was having trouble finding frames for these 2 pieces because of the combination of the ecru and this bright Polstitches fabric. Everything that was warm toned was too warm tone. Everything that was cool toned was too cool toned. So I think we found a happy medium. And now I can deliver these 2 pieces to our friends who live in Telluride and have a tiki room in their sunroom. So the back of their house is decorated like a 1950s, 60s Polynesian themed room. And these 2 pieces are going to fit perfectly over the bar. She has a couple of other birds up there, and the color scheme is going to match. And don't these 2 pieces look like sister stitches? Like, I wonder if Mojo Stitches, is her name Joanna? Did I make that up? I wonder if Mojo Stitches and Jacob from Modern Folk Embroidery have shared with each other that their pieces are really nice complements, or at least I think so. So those were all of my FFOs. I spent a lot of time FFOing this month. I still have, I think, 4 pieces hanging in my craft room / office closet that need to be FFO'd, but we're making it happen. My New Year's resolution for this year was to FFO things shortly after finishing them, and I had a huge backlog from 2024 and the start of 2025, and I'm feeling really good about where we're at. I'm also, I'm not getting better at pinning and lacing, but I'm feeling more comfortable with just accepting the imperfections. Just is what it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, let's switch gears and get into my whips. This first project might be a UFO. This is Magnolia by Nora Corbett. It is stitched on 28 count petal by Picture This Plus. Since the last time, I believe I got her legs stitched in 1/1, got her arm stitched in, and then started on the left wing. I was already waffling about this project because of the 28 count linen. I had previously only ever stitched Mirabilia and Nora Corbett designs on 32 count. So I kept thinking maybe I just need to give this a chance on 28. I'm just not used to it. But as I was progressing with the project, the stitches felt really big and bulky, especially with the simpler Nora Corbett design that has a lot more block stitching. And then when I was down in the skirt, I felt like this navy blue kreinik and this kind of carnival colored one, it's black but rainbow, they didn't go with each other. They didn't go with the rest of the colors. So I was starting to second guess that. And then I made a big boo-boo. I didn't realize that either I had purchased the wrong kreinik here. This is a number 8. It is much thicker than the number 4 that's typically used in Mira Nora designs. Or maybe I ordered the right thing and 123 Stitch just sent me the wrong thing. I'm not sure. I kitted this up maybe 2 years ago. And like the bozo that I am, I just picked up the kreinik. I think I was on a phone call with my mother-in-law and we were just chatting up a storm and I wasn't paying attention. And I stitched a huge portion of the wing. And then I realized, why does this look so weird and thick? Well, it's because it's a number 8, not a number 4. And I'll show you a close-up here so that you see what I mean. But it is much thicker. Sorry about the lighting. We have an overcast day today. It is much thicker than the number 4 at the bottom. And I don't know about you, but when I look at fairy wings, I want them to look ethereal. I don't want them to look thick and bulky. And so I then became very irritated with myself. It's not the project's fault. It's a beautiful project. I do think if I UFO it, I'm going to start over and do a color conversion and on 32 count. And I'm definitely going to make sure I don't use number 8 kreinik. But I'm just annoyed with myself about this project. It's not, my vision is not coming to life with it. So I've decided she's going to go on vacation because it's not her fault. She's not going to cross-stitch jail. It's my fault. And I'm going to put myself in Mirabilia jail for a couple of months. And then I'll look at it again and make a decision about whether I pick it up again or pick up a different one. And I want to be clear, it's not that I'm criticizing the colors Nora Corbett chose. I think it's the combination of me selecting 28 count linen, not being a good enough stitcher where my stitches are not laying perfectly flat. And then this color combination just wasn't what I had envisioned. I don't know what I was thinking. It does look like the model stitch. But I have a different vision for this project. So Magnolia is going to go on vacation back in the craft room closet. She's going to get a break from me, and I'm going to calm down and look at it with fresh eyes. All right, after that, I needed a restorative experience with fancy stitching. So I pulled out Chatelaine Beaded Dragonfly Tile. I don't have a cover photo because I purchased the PDF and that doesn't come with a model stitch. But here is a photo of where I was last time. And then here it is now. This is stitched on a 28 count Witchelt. I can't remember if this is white or antique white linen. It's very basic with DMCs, the called for beads, and the petite treasure braid. So this time I finished the beading at the bottom here, and I think I needed to do a bit of back stitching with this bottom rose. And then I got 3 of these dragonflies in with the petite treasure braid. I have to tell you, this quarter stitch and half stitch with the treasure braid was breaking my brain a little bit. It took me, I think, 2 hours for each of these dragonflies, which is not typical for me. So in between working on these, I did start putting in parts of the inner border just so I had some easy stitching to do in between the dragonflies. I'm having a lot of fun with this project, even though it does scramble my brain. And I don't know if you can see, but it is so sparkly. And if you promise not to judge, I will show you a close-up. The camera doesn't want to focus. There we go. I am loving this project. I still have a long way to go, but it's a lot of fun, even though it is very slow going. All right, sampler stitching. I pulled out hats, Mrs. Campbell, 1805. I started this, was it this past spring or early in the summer? Maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I had only ever worked on it once. So here is what it looked like the first time I worked on it or when I started it. And here is what it looks like now. Please excuse the wrinkles and the dangling threads. So I was able to pull down the right border just a little bit, the left border to almost the halfway point. Halfway is about here. I stitched this small alphabet row. This was very easy stitching. I got the whole thing done in one evening, even though there are color changes. And then all of these A through O larger alphabet letters are eyelets, and I'll show you a close-up. If you promise not to judge that my eyelets are wonky. So I'll show you here. Those are the eyelets. I am enjoying this project. It is very easy stitching. So it's good for when my brain is tired after a long work day. And I anticipate I will keep pulling it out and working on it for that reason. I also like the color palette. These are muted bright colors, and I am a muted color girl, so I think I'm really going to appreciate how this turns out. This is stitched on 46 count Scrimshaw by Cedar River Linen. It has the slightest peach pinky tint to it that you can really only see in certain lights, but I think that brings out the pinks and the greens in particular, so I'm really enjoying that. Next is Julia Rachel de la Mer 1849 by Cross Stitch Antiques. A lot of people have stitched this one in the past year and a half. Recently, Elena Bell and Dmitrieva Natalia both finished, and they did a bit of a conversion with colors and fabrics and also moving the motifs a little bit. And I had already been thinking about moving a couple of the motifs around. I'm definitely going to do that to kind of suit my taste. And I have an Emily Dickinson quote that I'm going to put instead of Julia's signature. I'll list both Elena and Natalia down below. If you are not following their Instagram pages, I would urge you to open an Instagram now and find them. They are amazing stitchers, both of them prolific. They post the most beautiful things. It is such eye candy and so inspirational. Okay, so what did I do on my Julia? Well, here is what it looked like the last time you saw it when I first started it last month. I think I had only gotten maybe 20 stitches in, and here is what it looks like now. So the bones of the border are done, and that's all I did for this project. This is stitched on 40 count burnt sand by Manny Di Donna. I really like this fabric. It feels very good. It is looking more modeled in my camera lens than it does in real life. It's a little bit more muted in person, but I'm very happy that I stitched the border. It matched up with the exception of one square lengthwise, I think either here or here. I went back and recounted and recounted and recounted over and over and couldn't figure it out. So if it's a problem, future Rosie will just have to deal with it. But now I can start working on the border or the inside motifs anywhere. And this is my first time doing the entire bones of the border first, and I'm really glad I did it. It feels a bit of a relief. So I think I'm going to do that with designs in the future rather than working on the border a little bit at a time. And I am hoping to pull this one out for Sampler September. My oldest whip, Smith Sampler by the Scarlet House. The last time you saw it, I was in the middle of band 3. And here it is now. So I was able to finish the entirety of band 3. I think it looks just beautiful. Band 3 is definitely my favorite band. I love the rose bushes. I think they're so elegant looking, flanking this bird on the branch. I love the geometric style of the whole sampler. I'm just having the best time stitching it, and I'm feeling the itch for a finish. I don't know if this happens to any of you, but typically when I get to like the 60, 65, 70% of a sampler, I start becoming single-minded about it. And that's how I'm feeling about this one. Now, there's a lot left. There are these two large trees, and then this house, which is essentially full coverage, and then a couple of peacocks and some baskets and little plants at the bottom. So I don't think I'll finish this. Definitely won't finish it next month, and maybe not even before the end of the year. But I'm really enjoying the progress that's been happening with this one this year. I've also been talking about this gap in the berry basket. I thought I had identified a word. I really liked the word. And then I made the mistake of watching the news. And I mean that facetiously. I was watching the news, and a political figure who I am not a fan of used the word that I thought I was going to stitch in the sampler. And I thought the word meant positive things, but the way in which it was being used, all politicians want power. They use language to do smoke and mirrors and manipulate people. That is part of politics, but now I can't even say the word out loud. So we're back to the drawing board. I have been looking in the Bible. I've been looking in some of my poetry books, and I have a couple of contenders, but I'm not quite there yet. I suppose the good news with not having a word yet is there's a lot more stitching to be done. The only other thing I'll share is I had not made a mistake in this sampler at all. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I had stitched this little rosebud. It should be one more diagonal. So like up and to the right, I'm missing one stitch in the stem words rows. And one of these, I don't know if these are like reeds or whatever these decorative things are. One of them is too far in one direction or the other, but I just decided to leave them in because it would not be on brand for me if I finished a project without making a mistake in it. Also, I was lazy. But for those of you with hawk eyes, yes, those mistakes are in there. The other thing I'll say about this piece is Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot just fully finished this in a beautiful frame. She finished her Smith sampler. She chose a more gray fabric. It looks beautiful. The whites pop on hers. And she showed it framed 2 videos ago. And then in her most recent video, it's hung up behind her on the wall. It looks so beautiful. Thank you, Sarah, for the inspiration. So in addition to me kind of feeling like I might finish this sometime in the near future, seeing such a beautiful, fully finished version of Smith Sampler also makes me enthused to keep working on it. All right, those are my whips. Let's talk Sampler September plans and my next antique. So first things first, I was supposed to start Albertine Bergoni, I think that's how you say the last name, 1907 by Reflet des Soies this past month. I don't know what happened, didn't start it, so it is going to be the first project that I work on September 1st, because this was supposed to be my birthday start on May 1st. I don't know what I'm doing. working on other things, I guess. I can't wait to stitch on this project. It is beautiful. Rebecca from Beck Stitches Everything is, I think, either done or almost done. And then Megan Seattle Stitcher is working on hers. I didn't make a plan with them to start. I had it already in my head that I would start for my birthday, and clearly have not started yet. So this is plan number 1 for Sampler September. And then let me show you the antique for plan number 2. So this kind of beat up, sad sampler is going to be my next reproduction. I'm going to call it Threads I Drew. There's no signature line on it, but just based on the motifs and the fact that it's stitched on a large count linen with a kind of thinner wool thread and in bright colors. I'm thinking somewhere 1840s to 1860s. And this quote is beautiful. It says, "In the glad morn of early youth, the various threads I drew, and pleased beheld the finished piece rise glowing to the view." So this verse is about stitching. And I just fell in love with this piece when I saw it on auction. I was at my best friend's house in Denver, and she had purchased from this seller before. So she got in touch with the seller and said, "Would you take this amount?" And the seller accepted. She's a very nice lady. It came from the UK, and these colors, I'm not sure if you can tell, but the colors are really bright, especially for how aged the sampler is. Like, can you see that purple and that orange and these pinks? So I am going to go a little outside of my comfort zone and choose some brighter colors and some linen that matches the color of this linen. I think I've already decided it will be on 40 count, and that way it'll still fit on a fat quarter, but it'll be a slightly larger piece. And then I think I also decided, so the stitcher must have been young and had difficulty with spacing. As you can see here, this band, the top band, there's not much room between the top border and the band, and then the floor of the band, so to speak, and the next band. But the third band has a lot of space both at the top and the bottom. So I think to make it more even, I'm actually going to pull this up a little bit and just get rid of one, one flower on either side of the border and just move things up. I know some people would say you then can't call it a reproduction. So maybe I'll call it an adapted reproduction for that reason. But other than that, I'm going to try to stay true to all the colors. I think I'm also going to have to get my huge magnifier out and do a little bit of guesswork, because there are a lot of missing stitches. That wasn't visible in the photos, but that's the risk you take, from purchasing online. And it looks like maybe either this entire motif or half of the motif is missing from here. There's a bunch of stitches missing here. So it's going to take some careful examination, but I can't wait to play with this one next. And I'm so glad that my friend knew this seller and they had a good relationship previously. She had purchased some antiques from her before, including Elizabeth Metcalf, which was my first reproduction, because I think this one's going to be really fun to reproduce and stitch. So that is all I have for you for this month. If you've stayed this long, thank you so much. Remember that Sarah Tweddle and my other 3 antique reproduction digital charts are 10% off between now and September 30th, 2026 on Etsy. I hope that you all have a wonderful September, that you have a lot of peaceful stitching time, and that you're all safe and well. Goodbye, everyone.